What do you do when your body becomes a national controversy and you're only 19? In 1966, Burt Ward was on top of the world. He just landed the role of Robin in Batman, the hottest show on television. But within weeks, executives pulled him aside with a warning. Religious groups were flooding the network with complaints, not about his acting, not about his behavior, but about what was showing through his tights. The Catholic League of Decency called it obscene. ABC panicked, and suddenly, Burt was handed a bottle of pills, not to help him act, but to chemically shrink his anatomy. This wasn't a tabloid rumor. It happened. The sidekick millions adored was being quietly dosed to make him less offensive to America's moral watchdogs. But the people trying to shrink Burt Ward had no idea who they were dealing with. Because what followed wasn't just a scandal. It was the beginning of a life that would outlast fame, outwit the system, and redefine what it means to be a real hero. And if you think this story ends with Hollywood, you haven't seen what he did next. Before Burt Ward ever touched a cape, he was breaking records that sound impossible today. Born Burt John Gervis Jr. in Los Angeles, he wasn't just talented, he was freakishly gifted in ways that defied explanation. At 2 years old, he was already performing professionally as the world's youngest ice skater in his father's traveling show, Rhapsody on Ice. Not cute kid stuff, real professional entertainment that made national headlines and landed him in Ripley's Believe It or Not. But that was just the beginning. By high school, Ward had achieved something that sounds like science fiction. He became the world's fastest reader. Not fastest for his age, fastest human being, period. When tested by the American Medical Society in Beverly Hills, he clocked 30,000 words per minute with 90% comprehension. The average person reads 240 words per minute with 40% comprehension. That means Ward could read an entire novel in 12 minutes and remember almost everything. Academically, he placed in the top 3% of the entire United States in mathematics and science testing at UCLA. His dean was furious when he left college for acting, telling him he should have become a nuclear physicist instead. At Beverly Hills High School, he played first board in chess, the position reserved for the absolute best player. And somehow, this teenage genius was about to stumble into a cultural firestorm that would overshadow all of it. Ward had zero acting experience when he walked into that 20th Century Fox audition room in 1965. Zero training, zero connections. What he did have was martial arts skills, athletic ability, and a chance meeting with producer Saul David through his real estate work. Over 1,100 actors had already auditioned for Robin. Every single one had been rejected. Then came Ward, young, enthusiastic, and completely unaware of what he was walking into. The producers asked him to demonstrate his physical abilities. Ward didn't just show them a few moves, he performed martial arts demonstrations, executed perfect tumbles and flips, then broke a 1-inch thick pine board with his bare hand. No wires, no tricks, just raw athletic power that left the casting team speechless. Executive producer William Dozier made the decision on the spot. If there really was a real Robin, the boy wonder, then Burt would be it. Just be yourself and be enthusiastic. Ward didn't even know he'd gotten the role until weeks later, when he was called in to sign what he thought was an agency contract. It was actually his Fox television contract. Both parties had assumed the offer had already been made and accepted. 6 weeks later, Batman premiered and became the most watched television series in America. Ward was suddenly one of the most recognizable faces in the world. That's when the trouble started. While Adam West got the star treatment, including a professional stunt double for dangerous scenes, Ward was thrown into harm's way every single day. The studio's reasoning was cold and calculating. Ward's costume showed more of his face, making stunt doubles less convincing. Also, paying Ward to do his own stunts was cheaper than hiring professionals. The result was a daily nightmare of injuries that would be unthinkable today. Second-degree burns from explosions, broken noses from mistimed fight scenes, concussions from falling debris, gas inhalation from special effects gone wrong. One of the most terrifying moments came during filming of the famous bat pole scenes. Ward revealed that the first time he used the poles, he was 85 feet above the ground with no safety net below. If he had missed grabbing the pole, he would have fallen to his death. "I went by extreme tension," he recalled. "If I hadn't grabbed the pole, I could have died." Another incident left him deaf for a week, when a wall exploded too close to his head during a stunt sequence. The studio didn't stop filming. They just worked around his temporary disability. Ward was sent to the emergency room dozens of times during the show's 3-season run. Yet none of this made headlines. The real scandal was brewing behind the scenes, and it had nothing to do with broken bones or burns. It was about what viewers could see through his costume. The Catholic League of Decency wasn't just a watchdog group. They were a cultural powerhouse with the ability to destroy careers and tank television shows. In 1966, they turned their attention to ABC's Batman series, and specifically to Robin's costume. Their complaint was explicit. Ward's anatomy was too visible through his tight-fitting green shorts and tights, unlike Adam West, who they solved the problem by stuffing Turkish towels into his costume. Ward's natural endowment couldn't be hidden so easily. The league filed formal complaints with ABC. Network executives panicked. This wasn't just about ratings, it was about the show's survival. Religious boycotts could kill a series overnight in the conservative 1960s. ABC's solution was medieval. They sent Ward to a studio doctor who prescribed medication designed to reduce his testosterone levels and physically shrink his anatomy. Ward was 19 years old, a teenager, and he was being asked to chemically alter his body to appease strangers who had never met him. The pills came with no warnings about long-term effects, no discussions about fertility, no conversations about consent, just a bottle of medication and instructions to take them daily. Ward started the treatment, but quickly realized something was wrong. After 3 days, he made one of the smartest decisions of his life. He stopped taking the pills. "I decided that they can probably keep me from having children," he later revealed. Instead, he used his cape to strategically cover himself during filming. The network never apologized. The Catholic League never acknowledged the human cost of their moral crusade. And Ward never spoke publicly about the experience until decades later. Before Bruce Lee became a global icon, he was Burt Ward's neighbor and training partner. Lee was starring as Kato on The Green Hornet, which filmed at the same studio as Batman. The two young martial artists quickly became friends, sparring privately and sharing techniques. When The Green Hornet crossed over with Batman for a special 2-part episode, television history was made. Bruce Lee's very first filmed fight scene was against Burt Ward's Robin. The footage shows two incredibly skilled fighters at the beginning of their careers, neither knowing that one would become a global legend and the other would carry a television legacy for over 50 years. Ward remembered Lee as funny, kind, and unbelievably dedicated to his craft. Even when cameras weren't rolling, Lee would practice martial arts in his backyard while Ward watched and learned. Their friendship lasted until Lee's shocking death in 1973 at just 32 years old. Ward was devastated by the loss. Lee had been more than a co-star or neighbor. He was a teacher and friend who shared Ward's passion for martial arts and self-improvement. The young man, who had started as a training partner, had become a brother. Years later, Ward would say that working with Bruce Lee taught him that true strength isn't about physical power. It's about knowing who you are and never letting others define your worth. That lesson would prove crucial in the years ahead. In 1990, Ward met Tracy Posner, and their first conversation lasted 12 hours. It wasn't just attraction, it was recognition. Two people who understood what it meant to live with public expectations and private struggles. Tracy's father was Victor Posner, a business empire worth $600 million. His companies included household names like Arby's Restaurants and RC Cola. Posner was also notoriously protective of his daughter and had 2 ironclad rules: never fall in love with an actor and never move to Hollywood. When Tracy returned to the East Coast and announced she was in love with a former television star and moving to California, her father was furious. Posner had built his fortune by solving problems with money, so he made Ward an offer that should have ended everything: $10 million to walk away from his daughter. Ward's response was immediate. No, not just no, but hell no. Tracy wasn't for sale at any price. Posner had underestimated what he was dealing with, a man who had already stood up to network executives, religious zealots, and Hollywood power brokers. One more billionaire wasn't going to intimidate him. Posner eventually came around, recognizing that Ward's refusal actually proved his love for Tracy was genuine. When Victor Posner died in 2002, he left behind a business empire and the knowledge that his daughter had found someone who valued her more than money. Burt and Tracy have been married for over 30 years now, proving that sometimes the best revenge against people who try to control you is living an extraordinary life on your own terms. What Ward built with Tracy has become more impressive than anything Hollywood ever offered him. In 1994, they founded Gentle Giants Rescue and Adoptions after discovering that large breed dogs were being euthanized simply because shelters couldn't place them. What started as a mission to save a few Great Danes became the largest giant breed dog rescue in the world. Over the past 30 years, Ward and Tracy have personally rescued and rehomed over 15,500 dogs, ranging from 2-pound Chihuahuas to 300-pound English Mastiffs. But they didn't stop at rescue work. Frustrated by the short lifespans of large breed dogs, they spent years developing Gentle Giants dog food, using non-GMO ingredients and specialized nutrition to extend canine lives. Some of their dogs have lived to 27 years old, nearly triple the normal lifespan for giant breeds. Every penny of profit from the dog food company goes back into rescue operations. Ward and Tracy don't take salaries. This isn't a business for them, it's a mission. In 2024, their work earned Ward the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award, personally signed by President Joe Biden. The letter recognized not just the thousands of animals saved, but the innovative approaches to animal welfare that have influenced rescue operations worldwide. Ward's response to the honor was typically humble. Tracy and I just want to leave this planet better off than when we found it. On January 9th, 2020, Burt Ward finally received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The ceremony was everything Batman fans could have wanted. Kevin Smith spoke, Maria Menounos showed up in a Batgirl costume, and the original Batmobile was parked on Hollywood Boulevard. Ward's star was placed directly next to Adam West's, ensuring that Batman and Robin would be together forever on one of entertainment's most famous sidewalks. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone. After decades of being dismissed as just a sidekick, Ward was finally getting recognition for his contributions to popular culture. When asked about the 50-year wait, Ward was philosophical. I am a patient person. But patience wasn't the real story. The real story was persistence. While other former child stars faded into obscurity or struggled with addiction and scandal, Ward had quietly built a second act that was more meaningful than his first. He hadn't just survived Hollywood, he had transcended it. The religious zealots who demanded Burt Ward alter his body got it backward. They thought they were protecting society from a young man who was too much. What they were really attacking was someone who refused to make himself smaller for other people's comfort. Ward took their pills for 3 days, then made a decision that changed everything. He chose to be exactly who he was, regardless of who that made uncomfortable. He covered himself with his cape and kept filming. He outlasted the controversy. He outlasted the critics. He outlasted the people who tried to control him. 50 years later, the boy they wanted to shrink has rescued over 15,500 animals, received presidential recognition, and inspired millions of people who refuse to dim their light for others. The Catholic League of Decency? Most people don't even know they existed. That's the real lesson of Burt Ward's story. Sometimes the people trying to make you smaller are really just afraid of how big you might become. And sometimes the best revenge is becoming exactly as magnificent as they feared you would be.